Yo! Welcome to another episode of Gaming with Mr. C. Or should I do Mr. C now? That I got this lucha mask. That's right, guys. Today we're going to be laying the smackdown on WWE Battlegrounds in our official review.
Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C.
So, guys, let's start off with none other than the story mode. What? There's a story mode? Absolutely there is. Why wouldn't there be? It starts off with Paul Heyman. And I'm a Paul Heyman guy. He's trying to convince none other than Vincent J. McMahon to allow him to start a Battlegrounds. And Vincent just brushes him off like he does everybody. And Paul Heyman decides to call up none other than the Texas Rattlesnake himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Throw me a cold one, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Every luchador eventually loses their mask. Alright, guys, so you ultimately end up recruiting Stone Cold Steve Austin, who goes around the globe trying to find these superstars for this Battlegrounds. There's 5 unique story arcs, and then the 6th one is WrestleMania. Each story arc tells a story over these 5 or so matches. Now, off of that main storyline, you can go into these branching of these offshoots of these other matches that allow you to unlock different collectibles and match types. But if you just stay with the straight story, you're going to be able to beat it in under 5 hours. But these 5 story arcs offer a different character and venue for each story arc, the 6th one being WrestleMania. So these, for instance, in the first one, you're going to have a unique character who has a unique skill set, whether it's a high flyer, all-around wrestler, a brawler. You're going to have these different venues that are specific to him and his area. And over the course of this story, you're going to play as male and female superstars, even in a tag team. What I did like about the actual individual story arcs is they all invited in some of the legends of wrestling. And they did it in a way that wasn't too forceful, in my opinion. For instance, there's this one area where you're this character in the bayou, almost a ZZ from Tough Enough, and he was raised by snakes. Well, you come to find out that the snakes are actually Jake the Snake. In WrestleMania, I mean, what's WrestleMania without The Undertaker? You fight against Undertaker. So I did like how they did that as well. They also told the story through these comic book style scenes, which I actually liked, because in the past in wrestling games, they use these text bubbles on the screen or bad voice acting. Like, yo, you couldn't get John Cena to do his own voice? Like, what is this? But also, they did use a lot of humor and poke fun at themselves in the story mode. So, you know, it was a pleasant experience. This is really the meat and potato of the game. So, guys, with the graphics, they kind of actually are inspired, or I feel like they're inspired by the WWE toy line, the little mini retros. You know what I'm talking about, Zack Ryder. I know you're a toy guy. Other than that, though, I mean, the graphics are very cartoonish, over the top. They are detailed. The characters look like their real life counterpart, which is great. And, you know, oddly, it somehow looks better than WWE 2K20. Ouch. But even the environments have a level of detail to them to where it looks like what it's supposed to look like. They're very functional. I mean, they're never a time where you're just like, oh man, these graphics are insane. But they are functional. They serve its purpose. The crowd is 3D. I mean, there's more people in the crowd than are in real wrestling these days, so you can't really complain about that, right? From sound-wise, man, the bang and the clang of every bump and every grapple is there. The soundtrack is your typical metal soundtrack that you would find in most WWE games. Nothing too surprising. There's no voice acting or sound over, really. The commentary is very basic of like, oh my, can he do that? I don't know. I think he just did. The intro music is cut down. It's a shortened version of the intro music. But again, it's serviceable, right? It does what it's supposed to do. So guys, let's talk about... Alright guys, so let's go ahead and talk about the controls. There's nothing too special about the controls that you don't already know from playing a wrestling game. You have your standard punch, kick, grapple button. Don't forget about your illustrious Irish whip. It was pretty quick for me to pick up the controls in this game. Now, granted, I have played wrestling games since like the 64 World Tour, PlayStation, WWF Warzone games, but still, I don't think you're going to have an issue picking up the controls here. You do have quite a variety when it comes into gameplay. For instance, you have these power-up moves, level 1, 2, and 3, or you can split it up 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. But you earn these levels throughout the match. They really kind of give a variety to it because you unlock different abilities and you can change them before the match of which you want to use. For instance, I was using this one towards the end where I was using my level 2 to steal the other person's finisher, and then I would use my level 1 to inflict more damage when I use my finisher. So you combine those two together, it gives me a different strategy than somebody else who may just do level 2 as a health regen, may do a level 1 where your standard punches and kicks mean more. As well as each stage or arena, battleground has their own oh my god type of moment. For instance, there's this one where there's a helicopter, you can grab onto it, go into the air, jump down, and land a giant elbow, cause mass destruction, the ring falls apart. In the bayou, you can throw people to the old chomping alligator, crocodile, and really do some cool stuff. So there is that kind of variety to the gameplay, but ultimately, several hours in, you're going to kind of feel like, okay, I've done this. It's time to move on. Because I'm going to leave WWE 2K20 out of this, but in the 2K19 and before, you really could kind of tell a story in the ring. You could do the Hell in the Cells. You could kind of really make your own WWE universe. They had a universe mode, right? But you can kind of really tell a story, and you really can't do that in this game. But are you even supposed to? So guys, what else is there to do in the game? You do have your standard exhibition mode, where you have about 9 or so different match types, like a steel cage match, Royal Rumble, 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2. There's not going to be a TLC or a ladder match or anything like that in here. But the steel cage is a little bit different. You actually have to collect money bags, and once you've collected enough money bags, you can then climb over. The steel cage is also electric at times. So it does have a little bit of a unique challenge there. They do have the King of the Battlegrounds, which is their online mode, if you will. You can go on and battle other online battlegrounders. You also have the tournament mode, which allows you to use the in-game currency to buy into an online tournament, in which you can then win rewards and stuff. And then finally, you have your daily battleground, you have your daily challenges where you can unlock in-game currency by doing 2 grapple moves, jumping from the top rope, whatever the daily challenge is. And then finally, you have the Battleground challenge where you take your creative wrestler through 175 different challenges. You do a challenge or a match, you get it a reward. Challenge and a match, reward. So it's another item that kind of beef up the game, give it more playtime. There's no story or mode to it or anything. But speaking of the creative wrestler, there is a creative wrestler. As you can see, my guy looks a lot like me, minus the 8-pack abs there. I only have a 6er. But there's not a lot of options here in the creative wrestler. You're not going to get the 2K style of creative wrestler. But there are enough options here where I felt like I could individualize myself in the game. You also do have a creative battleground mode, which was a little bit more in-depth than that of the wrestler, but still not to the 2K standards. But again, a lot of options here. You can choose the different crowd types, what kind of celebration there is, different aprons, rings, ropes, and all those things. All right, guys, so this is where I would normally go into my final thoughts, but I can't. And why can't I? Well, that's because I got to talk about the currency in this game. There's really 2 different kinds of currency in this game. You have these blue medallions, which you unlock through any match type, whether it's online, the campaign, or exhibition. You unlock these blue coins. And these blue coins, I was averaging about 500 per match based off of the things I was doing in the matches. And then you have these gold WWE coins, which you got for pre-ordering or using your real-life money. And this is kind of the issue or the dilemma, because you use these items to purchase things within the game, whether it's other superstars, their clothing for your creator wrestler, or to even buy into the online tournaments. Now, when you go to buy something, I'll ask you, hey, do you want to use 5,000 blue medallions or 500 gold coins? So Do you want to use in-game money or your real money? Now, was it too ridiculous of pricing? Not necessarily, but the fact that everything in this game is pretty much tied to that made it feel very loot boxy. It almost felt like I was playing a mobile game. And the difference is I didn't have to pay $40 or $50 for the mobile game and then turn around and grind to unlocking characters or spend more money to unlock characters. And that's kind of the dilemma for me. It might not be an issue for you because, you know, in one aspect of it, you know, you might be trying to achieve unlocking these things, and that gives you more of a reason to play, which would then extend your playtime for this game, which means you would get more money out of the game or more time for your money. All right, guys, so for my final thoughts of WWE Battlegrounds. Ultimately, I did enjoy the game of what I played of it when I played it, but there's not really anything in there that's ever going to make me go back and play it once I've beaten the campaign, which again was under 5 hours. And you know, the game's $40, okay, but I just don't think I would ever come back to this game. You know, wrestling is just so real. It was kind of nice to loosen the old bootstraps, if you will, and just make it fake and over the top. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. But the gameplay is just so one-dimensional and over the top, I just don't think I'm ever going to come back to it. Now, it is really the spiritual successor to WWE All-Stars. So if you're an All-Stars fan or just a hardcore WWE fan, you'll probably get some life out of this game. But from a technical standpoint, I'm going to have to take off this luchador mask because I'm going to have to give it a 5.75 out of 10. See.
Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C. C. Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C. C. Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C. C. Gaming with Mr. C. Gaming with Mr. C.